Good evening. We have a big agenda tonight, so we're going to get started. The first item on the agenda is the City of Homestead 2007-2008 first public budget hearing. Special call. This meeting is called to order. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Ball?
Here.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Here.
Councilman Nelson?
Here.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Here.
Councilwoman Lobos?
Here.
Councilwoman McCormick?
Here.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Thank you. Additions, deletions, deferrals? None? Order of business, item A, the City of Homestead rolled back millage rate is 5.3410. The proposed millage rate is 5.3410, which is equal to the rolled back rate. Mr. Manager?
Mayor, council members, the millage rate you have in front of you is something we are proposing for this budget year. We are proposing the rollback rate, which is 5.3410, and by definition, rollback rate is the millage rate that will generate the same taxes like tax revenue to the city like last year. And the reason it's slightly higher than last the millage rate in this existing fiscal year is because the assessed value of properties in Homestead went down. And I'd like to say a few facts, Mayor, if you don't mind, about the rollback rate.
Please do.
The increase between what we have today for what we are proposing is 0.1825. The proposed tax will generate the same tax revenues from the last year. I said that earlier. This will require 2/3 of council, supermajority, to approve. And like I said in my prior budget presentation, and I will go over it this time, there are two key factors here in my budget proposal. We want to keep the city in a favorable strategic position for the next coming year and the following fiscal years. And also we are maintaining the level of service that the residents receive from the city of Homestead at the present time. This 1825, it's really a very minor increase. If you look at the taxable value in Homestead is, I'm trying to find it. Average taxable value in Homestead is $142,736 taxable value. If you look how much is this impact on an average, it's $20.06. That's $2.17 a month. And this is like there are many cities around the state. They reduce their services because of the reductions. We are not reducing our services. We're keeping our services the way they are.
Just repeat those numbers again, Mike, for me.
The average taxable value in Homestead is $142,736. With the proposed millage rate, that's an increase of $26.05 for the whole year from last year. And monthly impact is $2.17. And I just want to also highlight here, the property owner would not even see this because they have another $25,000 of taxable, what do you call it, homestead exemption. The other thing I'd like to say, Mayor and Council, since 2003, between the year 2003 to 2007, we reduced the millage rate by 39.3%. What we are proposing to do, we are increasing it by 3.5%. If you look at from 2003 until today, the net decrease is 35.8%. And contrary to some articles written, the millage rate in Homestead is not the highest in 6 years. Actually, it's higher than last year, but it's the second lowest in 7 years.
Yeah.
2003. With this, Mayor and Council, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Any members from council for the manager?
Mayor Bell, I have a question about how we're going to proceed tonight. Are we going to have a presentation, or is it going to be without a presentation?
Mr. Manager, are we having a public presentation? Because we're going to have a discussion. We're having a discussion, so we need a motion. Are we going to have a presentation? Because we need a
I think
motion.
we go through the presentation, then we go back to the resolution, the ordinance, and approve it. And we have two public hearings, and we
Perfect.
go through approve it then.
Perfect. I'd like to see the public hearing, the public presentation brought forth each time.
Definitely, Mayor, Council, if you don't mind, I'd like you to come to the front.
Thank you.
So now we have two Toms.
Hello, everybody. With the mic. All right. It's practically similar to the presentation I did last week or last time, and I'm going to go over it again. But before we start, I just have a few house cleaning items I'd like to mention up front. I'm not carrying my presentation with me. I'm just going by here in my notes, so I'm going to defer to staff for specific information in case you ask detailed questions. So instead of go and look for it, they will have it ready for me there to answer. Also, for the benefit of everybody sitting here from the audience, we have boards in the back. Is this going to continue like this? Are they shut down? Can somebody turn them off, please? There are boards here displayed around, and these are, when I go through the presentation and talk about initiatives, these are practically cover all the initiatives we are talking about. Joanna will be pointing towards these boards with a laser pointer so people could look at them and know which ones we are talking about. And I invite people, of course, to go and look at them whenever they have an opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, I want to just, if anything, people leave with tonight is these two bullets I'm going to present tonight. This budget focuses on favorable strategic position for the city of Homestead for the future. I don't want to propose something to you to be popular but reckless. So I'm proposing something for you to have financial stability in the city of Homestead for next year and the following years. The other thing, we are maintaining the level of service in the city. We did not cut services anywhere around the city across all fronts. Again, we continue to have this as budget, mission critical budgeting. There's no fat at all in this budget. This is a one-year budget due to uncertain economic conditions. And before I just walked in here, I was so busy since I walked into the office, but I had a brief discussion with the vice mayor, and he's telling me how the stock market is doing, and this affects everybody, including the city of Homestead. Normally we do 5-year budget projections. We didn't do it since the tax issue came about, and now we're talking about economic conditions, but we are going to take a very serious stab at it after we have this budget approved. Again, some of the budget highlights. This budget is prepared based on 5.341, which is the rollback rate, and these are some statistics you see in the bullets under. The inflation rate, and you will see why I'm mentioning this now, because it's going to be relevant later. It's 5.6 over the past 12 months. There is a 2% CPI adjustment for water, sewer, stormwater, and solid waste to maintain and cover the level of service. That generates $441,000. Again, really to just maintain and cover the level of service. That equates to $2.91 per month. That's less than a gallon of milk per month. That is to continue providing the services citizens got used to in the city of Homestead and expect from us. In the electric department, we are proposing 1.9%, and that's an impact of $1.49. This will generate revenues for us in the electric department to be able to do some of the capital projects we've been deferring for so many years. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at the electric rates, the last time we had an electric rate increase was in 98. I'm sorry, 89. In 89, so it's 19 years. And I know the chairwoman of the finance committee asked me what this will do. Will this enhance services in the electric department? The answer is absolutely yes, because some of these capital projects we are going to be doing is going to enhance the services we provide to our citizens and to our ratepayers. And I will just use one project as an example. One of the things we will be doing if this is approved is to build a control center. With the control center, we will be able to monitor everything, the system-wide. We'll be able to catch problems before they happen instead of having an outage and go and start looking for it. We will be able to have the capability to put the geographic information system mapping there. If we have an outage in a circuit, all what we have to do is just click with a click of a button. We highlight that circuit. When citizens are calling, automatically they receive a reply that we know that there's an outage there that will be restored at a certain period of time. Or we even have the capability to call them and say, by the way, we know your power is out. We're working on it and it will be restored. That's just an example. Building impact fees, we have $6.1 million building impact fees. If you recall, in my last presentation, it was close to $1 million, I think 966. And I said, if we are not able to award 2 contracts before the second reading, then we have to add the money here. It's not a new money, it's the same money, but instead of coming out of this fiscal year, it's going to come next fiscal year, which we're talking about in 2 weeks. But instead of confusing the issue, I just wanted to do everything proper and do the proper work, proper, so we can issue the purchase orders, in the right way. Like I said, the new requests are $966,000, and this is where they come from: $490 from new projected revenues and $476 from appropriation fund balance. The 5.1 is the same money we have today, but we are moving it to next fiscal year. And this is to cover James Arshon Smith and the community center. We talked about in this budget year, in this budget proposal, we are eliminating 17 positions, 10 full-time and 7 part-time. And the total comes to $1.6 million, Joanna. And Mayor and Council, everybody sitting here, we will continue. Every time we have a vacancy, we don't automatically just go and say, let's fill the vacancy. We look for innovative ways to be able to cover the tasks for that position with existing staffing. And we will continue to do this, and every time we have a vacancy, if we can't eliminate it, we will just eliminate it. Again, capital projects are in the same boat. They are all mission-critical capital projects, and this is for the entire city. You know, for a city of our size, when you look at $17.1 million, that's really a small number, especially when you have an electric department and enterprise funds. When we go farther, I show you how it's broken down. Again, this will be the third consecutive year we have no capital fleet, with the exception of two in the people transportation plan, one in forfeiture and one in utilities fund, and these are really must-have vehicles. That's why we have them here. It's mission critical. And I also want to mention it. We're not saying the fleet we have, we're going to continue repairing it to a point where sometimes it becomes more expensive to just fix what you have versus buying a new. We're not doing that. You know, we had the fleet manager, after all departments submitted their budgets and they agreed they're not going to be fleet, we had the fleet manager look at the entire fleet we have today to see if there's any vehicles that we must replace, because, you know, sometimes we have to face reality and we have to replace it. And he advised us that all the fleet we have, he's very confident that could make it through the fiscal year. Again, these are the ones in the general fund, and you could see the general fund really doesn't have that much money, especially when you know that $350,000 out of the 678 is coming from local option gas tax. It's a revenue coming to us, and we must spend it on capital projects. So that's where this number is coming from. And of course, our GIS system and computer hardware, software, really I think it's 1 year beyond its service life, and we could not extend its life any further without affecting operations, so we don't want to do that. So this is something we need. Forfeiture fund, they have $1.8 million worth of capital projects. Of course, the biggest attraction will be the skate park coming on the west side of Homestead, and improvement to some of the parks we have under the jurisdiction of the police department. The mobile command both need other equipment to just communicate with other agencies. And of course, the firing range, you know, this is just to pay for the soft cost and some maybe minor land litigation. People's transportation plan, or the half a penny sales tax, many people refer to it as, we are restricted. At a minimum, we must keep it 20% for transit share. And just for, you know, everybody's information, we use some of this money. When the busway came through the city of Homestead, they had the typical fencing, they have the typical lights, and they have the typical bus shelters like they have it in the county. And the city of Homestead wanted to have a signature amenities, so it cost us then $450,000. So the payment is coming from here. I think we paid it recently. Electric fund, it's $2.5 million. Again, this includes, you know, if the proposed rate increase is approved, it's included in the $2.5 million, and that's where it really goes in. They're heavy in infrastructure. Dispatch center, of course, this would be a great thing to have. And then stormwater utility, again, we recently had, I proposed an increase for stormwater utility of 2%. Again, this is something we did since the year 2002, and if my memory serves me right, we skipped it only 1 year. Every single year we had it approved. And the reason we're doing this, our expenses are going up. If we don't do anything, our expenses are going up, and the only way to cover the budget is by start cutting services. That's not what we are proposing to do. With this, we are going to be doing $100,000 worth of capital projects, and the 2% will generate only $25,000. And I think last time I told you it's 7 cents per month per household. We are going to be entering into an interlocal agreement with the county to maintain our the canals within the city of Homestead. They're not our canals, but the canals within the city of Homestead, to have proper drainage. If you notice in the last event, with storm event, South Florida opened the canals, it worked beautiful, we didn't have flooding. So we're going to be paying up to $47,000. And again, if you look at the increase, really to cover that item alone, we should have increased rates by 4%, but because council, when they passed the ordinance in 2002, limited to a cap of 2%, so we're just proposing 2%. Again, water and sewer, it's infrastructure intense utilities, but really when we look at the amount of capital projects we are doing there, it's really absolutely minimum capital projects. We need to just get by with the, continue to provide the service level. But some of the highlights are here. Telemetry system, again, this is similar to the control center we talked about in the electric department. This will, from the one central location, they will be able to control the entire stations. We have pump stations or lift stations in the system, including water tanks and water pumps and all that stuff. So they will be able to see it right in front of them, and they will be able to diagnose it. Now we have people going at least twice a week to go and visit every single station. So this is efficiency in terms of providing services. Solid waste is, their infrastructure is more normally fleet, and we said, their fleet is doing okay, but dumpsters and roll-offs, that's where they're going to be spending capital projects. Again, impact fees, we talked about it earlier, but this is where it's coming from, where it's going to be distributed. Parks and Recreation. The main thing is the building improvements at Bill Dixon Community Center, James Arthur Smith. And of course, we have the YMCA payments of $250,000 for the building we bought there. And we are going to have a payment of $250,000, then another payment of $250,000, then $50,000, and we're completely done with and we are encumbering that money or reserving that money in the impact fee fund, so the general fund doesn't have to pay. These are some of the proposed major initiatives. The solid waste tax roll assessment is going to be in the tax roll. We are going to have two items we'll talk about later in the budget, the council meeting. In-house residential recycling, and Joanna, please point out, we have actually the recycling truck somewhere. So if people look there, they would see what we are talking about.
What's the date for that start, Mike, in case we remember?
Julio?
We're expecting to get that online within the first 3 months of the fiscal year.
Mike, explain how we're taking recycling accounts.
At the present time, we have a company, Waste Management. They do our recycling. That's the curbside recycling, practically cans, glass bottles, and the newspapers. They come to the curb and they pick it up. We are going to be doing it in-house because they gave us a proposal to increase their rates, and they were really outrageous. So we looked at how much it will cost us to do it in-house, and I think it's going to cost us like half of what it's costing us with a contractor. So we're going to go with this. Even though this truck is designed the way you see it, I know Councilwoman Lopez and Julio, of course myself, are working on the coordination with the county. The county is going into a new process, which is really, it will encourage recycling. Practically, they're going to give people a super can, and you throw all your recycling there, and they sort it when it goes to the recycling facility versus people sorting the stuff. We're waiting also for the county to enter into an agreement with Waste Management, and we are going to piggyback on it for disposal of the solid waste materials. And also these trucks are convertible to have that capability to go to what the county is trying to do to. The county is doing it through a contractor. We're bringing it in-house. Again, the mitigation construction of Mayor Roscoe Warren Municipal Park. You all see the equipment working there. Now we're doing the mitigation. Just for people who don't know enough about the project, this is a project that used to be a landfill for the city of Homestead. And practically, we used to refer to it as Humpty Dumpty in the past. There's garbage there, so the county gave us a grant for $7.5 million to clean the facility, and what you see being done today is the cleaning of that contaminated materials. And after that, we will go and start the construction of the park, which will include, actually I'm going to defer to Julio to mention what are the amenities that will be included. And again, that's the site plan, and it's located across the street just south of the high school, Homestead High School. Julio, please just give us.
Yeah, the idea of the park is basically to have basically a regional park which will include soccer fields, tennis courts, basketball courts, party pavilions, and also a center clubhouse per se to handle big events such as concerts, etc. Correct, yes. And a splash pad, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to my seat right after that, at least at the moment. William Dickinson Center, again, this is a facility, we refer to it as the senior center today. You know, there are several renderings you see in the back of the room. This is going to be converted into a community multi-generational facility. And Mayor and Council, I'm pleased to tell you that since I became a manager and been working very diligently with the staff, tonight we're bringing a recommendation for an award. And you all recall when this budget went up through the roof to $7.5 million. We brought it under control by eliminating the things we don't need in the center. And the cost comes now with the award less than $4 million. And James Archer Smith is going to be in the same boat. We're going to be bringing a proposal tonight for approval. The infiltration inflow, again, we receive grants from the federal government to do infiltration inflow, which is practically try to stop the storm water, in-ground storm water, from entering into the sewer system. Every time it gets into the sewer system, we have to take it to the wastewater treatment plant and treat it, and that costs us lots of money. But we got grant from the federal government, and we have a local match, and we are going to be awarding the contract again tonight to start doing these things. So these things are coming so timely with the budget presentation. Firing range, I talked about it earlier, or what we are proposing to do this time is just design and some land mitigation. And the reason I'm saying this because it was a proposal to do this in the past from forfeiture fund. Forfeiture fund doesn't have the money to be able to build the facility. It's estimated at $10 million. Joanna, you could point it out. It will be really, if we someday build it, which I hope we will, it will be the best facility. Scott, I don't know where, I know for sure in Dade County will be the best facility. And we are approached by all law enforcement agencies, federal agencies, encouraging us to build this. Of course, if we don't have the funding, we may have to go back to them and say, you know, show us the money. And I hope someday when we go through the construction of the park, we will make it an enterprise facility versus, you know, relying on the general fund for anything. And that's the intent from, you know, this chief and top brass recommendation is to just really have it self-sufficient. Again, we're going to have events at Lasner Park. You know, many people are familiar with Larnach Park and its beautiful facility. We're going to be having events, and when I say having events, I'm talking about city-sponsored events. This is managed by the CRA, but also we will seek the help and participation of people in the community and some organizations. And again, the intent is to have a minimum of one family type of musical event at the park, Burma, of course. Downtown Chrome Avenue improvements. Again, we are planning to improve Chrome Avenue, and I always tell this story, but the first attraction I had when I came to Homestead was the Chrome Avenue. I drove through Chrome Avenue at night and I fell in love with Homestead. And unfortunately, when I became a manager, I drove through there at night and I saw it so dark, so I inquired what's going on with the lights. They said they were removed. I can't tell you, I don't know anything about it. But we are budgeting money to bring back the lights and also give a very serious facelift to Chrome Avenue. We're budgeting $200,000 by CRA money. And the events at Larnach Park also at CRA money. Stormwater grants, again, a couple of years ago, we got grants from the federal government, is it federal, Joanna, or the state? We call DRI, I'm not sure, state? It's state, and I can tell you, Joanna was very instrumental in taking that money, because initially from prior CRA director, he wanted to put the money all towards housing, and Joanna read the requirements of the submittal, and it applies towards infrastructure, so we were able to take $750,000 for downtown stormwater improvements. And if you all recall, when we have serious rain events, Chrome Avenue floods, even old City Hall, water gets inside. So we got $750,000 to go towards drainage improvements. And also with the lobbying efforts we had in Tallahassee with mayor and council going there, and the new lobbyist Ring Group, we were able to get $500,000 this year. So the total is $1.25. It's going to go towards drainage improvements for Chrome Avenue. Canal maintenance agreement, I talked about it earlier. Again, City of Homestead never had anybody maintain the canals in the past. You know, we just keep begging the county to just go and do things. We have a tentative agreement with them. It's not executed. It's going to come to you for approval, and of course, going to go to the board for approval, county commission for approval. But basically, it places a cap of $47,000 on the maintenance of the canals within the City of Homestead. Throughout the city, enter into an agreement with them, and of course they will maintain the part within the county, and definitely this will enhance the delivery of water through these canals, and of course reduce the flooding in the city. I can tell you, when they first proposed it, and Mayor, I'm sure you recall, and Councilwoman Wadman, when we did the budget presentation last year, the county proposed to wanted us to enter into an agreement, and the cap was $340,000. And my answer was, you really have to bring the National Guards for us to enter into this agreement, because you had to increase stormwater rates by 50% to just cover that agreement. I'm sorry, 500% to cover that agreement. It was crazy. Again, the major challenges we have, economic conditions, we talk about it before and talk about it today, and like I referred to a conversation with the Vice Mayor and the Mayors also. I mean, it's my understanding the stock market is down 500 votes, Vice Mayor, and that's really not good news. And of course, it's going to affect us, it's going to affect the people around us too. Decline in assessed value. Again, you know, the City of Homestead enjoyed an increase of assessed value for the past, since 2000, from 2003 to 2007. This budget year is the first time we have a decline in assessed value. Union negotiations, we are just entering into union negotiations, and they cost money. Motor sports taxes, that's for the racetrack, it's costing a lot, we pay taxes. And I think I mentioned last time, but I repeat it just for people who were not here in the presentation. This facility, because it's operated by a private entity, it's taxable since it's owned by a city. But if it was owned by the school board, if it was owned by the county, or it was owned by the state, they don't have to pay taxes. But because it's city, we have to pay taxes. We went to Tallahassee, we were very successful in bringing it very close, but unfortunately it didn't go through all the way. But what we are proposing to do is to go to the county and try to enter into an agreement with them where we transfer ownership to them so we don't have to pay taxes. I can tell you, since we had the presentation last time, I received a call from Richard. He has his entire team ready to start because Mitch Berman from his staff worked on it last time. He's totally familiar with it, and he said it's just, whenever I rub the magic lamp, he will just be there to negotiating with the county. But I want to run it by the county manager first. I like to deal staff to staff first. And if it doesn't go through, then I'm going to ask for your help to talk to your peers. New police station. New police station is very expensive. It's my estimation that the police station, based on the cost of City Hall, this is with the land, having the land available. And the proposed location for the police station is in Southwest 162nd Street, that's close to the Lucy substation. It costs about $35 million to build the police station. The existing police station cannot really house what they have there. The chief and Scott and I just walked through. You have people sitting in closets because that's how the city is growing and the facility there is not big enough. But this will be one of the challenges. We have to come up with the $35 million. I can tell you the general fund cannot support it. It may have to be just special bonds. And this is the same thing going for the additional park improvements and roadway improvements. There are so many recommendations in the Parks Master Plan and Transportation Master Plan. Again, we'd like to do it someday, but there isn't enough money to do it. Cities normally float bonds, and they do stuff like this when citizens really want it to be done. The major challenges, again, wastewater treatment plant. This will be required to, we are running out of capacity. Actually, before we used to be able to certify everything in-house. Now we have to go through the county to certify the capacity. And like I mentioned to you, we have several alternatives. The cheapest is $47 million. The highest, last time I saw it, was $120 million. And Hulu keeps saying don't put a cap there because it keeps growing. But we are talking to the county now to be able to divert the flow to them. And that would be definitely the best alternative to the city. And the deputy director and the director are really working very well with us, and we will keep you updated in where we get with the wastewater treatment plant. The existing wastewater treatment plant will require enhancements up to $215 million. The wastewater fund is capable of funding it, and that's from impact fees we collected for capacity. From the new development you saw in the city, we were charging impact fees and reserving it for capacity, so we're going to be using it for capacity enhancement. The baseball stadium, again, we have several proposals. People are trying to take the baseball stadium. It's a drain to the general fund. In the past 2 fiscal years, we were able to fund their budget from retained earnings. This coming fiscal year, they have partially funded from retained earnings, but we are subsidizing their operation from the general fund. Next year will be completely, the year after next fiscal, will be completely reliant on the general fund. Up to the tune of $300,000, this is like the absolute minimum things we need to do. So we are looking for ways to divest ourselves from the obligations. We like to keep the facilities and enter into a very good agreement so citizens can still. Of course, this is with your guidance and whatever proposal we have, I'm going to bring to you for approval and discussion. Fire and drain, I talked about it earlier. Capital projects, capital fleet, I talked about them earlier where we said we keep deferring them, but it gets to a point where really you have to start spending money. Cars could run for so long, and finally you have to buy a car or replace the car. Same thing for capital projects, especially with the enterprise funds. You must do something about it, and it gets to a point where we have to start funding capital projects. Of course, to add insult to injury, we have decline in building permit fees and water and sewer fees, the electric fees, all the fees that are based on new developments in the city is declining because we are all familiar with what's going on with the building industry. And this is just a graphical illustration of the building impact fees and the permit fees. Dramatic reduction. This is the total budget for the city. This is the fiscal year we are in. This is the proposed fiscal year. Again, I just want to mention that there are internal funds when we advertise in the Miami Herald, and the advertisement will be coming on Friday, this coming Friday. You will see a number larger than 142. The number is 157 and some change. We are required by law to advertise the internal funds too, but the internal funds are really funds buried within these funds, so I don't want to just count them twice, double dipping. I don't want to do that. So these are the actual revenues and expenses in the city. And again, $5.1 million are the money we're talking about not rolling over, the money we're taking from this fiscal year and taking it to next fiscal year. Last presentation, the number was smaller, now it looks bigger, but that's really just moving the $5.1 million. Okay, these are the good graphs where I hope everybody will be able to understand what we're trying to deliver here. Where do general fund revenues go? For each single dollar that comes to the city of Homestead as a revenue for the general fund, 30% of it goes to general government, and that's like human resources, finance, city manager's office, purchasing, IT, somebody says IT. And here 51 is going towards public safety, and public safety in the way we define it in Homestead, it's only police and code enforcement. Some other cities add building safety, it's division in the building and zoning department. They add it to safety, but here we're just really using the police and code enforcement. Then of course the rest of it is going to 8% going for which one is this? This is parks. 6% is going for development services, which is the building safety and planning and zoning, and 5% going for streets division. Now, where do your property tax dollars go? For each dollar you pay taxes on your property, 33% or 33 cents come to the city of Homestead. 51 cents goes to the school board, and I used to refer to it as Rudy Crew and Company. 7% goes to the county. 6% is going to other, and 3% is going to regional. And we could break it down if you have any questions about where these things are coming from. Now, the general fund revenues from city taxes versus other revenues. Every dollar that comes to the city of Homestead, 45 cents are coming from property taxes within the city of Homestead, and 55 cents are coming from other sources. And that includes the state share revenues and other sources are not property tax related here in the city of Homestead. Again, this is a graphical illustration of the millage rate of the city of Homestead. You see it here in 2003 was about 8.5. Look at it, it's going down. And this proposed year is slightly higher than last year, but definitely it's not higher than 5 years before. It's the lowest it's the second lowest since 2003. Mayor and Council, that concludes my presentation. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer.
Mr. Manager, thank you very much for a very, very thorough budget presentation. I want to thank the Finance Department. I want to thank everybody that was involved, Councilwoman Wendy Lobos as well, with the Finance and Enterprise Committee. Thank you for the good, hard work on this. And, you know, we worked very, very, very hard on holding this year's budget to last year's rollback rate. That was a big effort to hold it back to last year's rollback rate. Last year, we reduced it 17 percentage points lower than the year before's rollback rate, and we have had 6 consecutive years in a row rate decreases. And so I believe we're probably one of the only cities, if not the only city in the entire state of Florida, that has worked so hard to keep taxes down. And the very small, slight increases that we are having on the water and the electric, 2 and 1.9, doesn't even keep up with inflation. But we have been working so hard. I was just informed today that FP&L went up 13%, and I haven't verified that yet, but 13%. And what we never want to do that, have one big tax increase. That's why we have these very small, minimal increases to where the water at 7 cents, or as the manager showed us earlier, the numbers where in water and wastewater, solid waste disaster, and stormwater, all together is $2.91 a month. So I appreciate that, holding the line and trying to keep these taxes down for our citizens. It's very, very important to us. We have a resolution before us, and before we open up, we have a public hearing tonight. I'd like to open up, but before we do, I'd like to have a motion on the floor.
Let me read the resolution, please. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, adopting the tentative millage rate for ad valorem taxation for real and personal property within said city.
I'll entertain a motion for approval. I'll move it.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council before we open up the hearing to the floor? This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience, please step up to the microphone. Make sure it's on, Mr. Judge. Please state your name and your address for the record and your comments. Thank you.
Brian Judge, 260 Northeast 10th Street. I just wondered if I could get the actual numbers from dollar value of millage rate, the ad valorem tax collected last year versus what your expected dollar value is this year going to the rollback rate.
Certainly.
You could round it to the nearest $500,000.
Actually, while Jan is looking at the information, I read an article in the Miami Herald, Lauren, you forwarded to me today, about tax revenues in cities. You know, the article was written about the city, our neighbor city here, Florida City. They are maybe one of the, I don't know, Rebecca, if you know this information, one maybe very few cities that experience growth in Florida.
I would remind you, too, Mr. Manager, that when we looked at the value, the property value as decreasing this particular year, we haven't even gotten the challenges yet that are going to be coming through on the value. So those challenges, many of the people who are challenging the value on their properties, because their properties, of course, are assessed by the county, they're not assessed by the city, and there will be many challenges brought forth, and that is, I believe many of the people who challenge it are going to be successful, and rightly so, because I've even taken a look at some of them, and I felt like they were, the values were overinflated. So I think there are going to be many challenges, and that will even further reduce the value, the property values. Mr. Shada.
Mayor, council members, I also like to mention, just piggyback on your comment, I've been working in the city manager's office for about 7 years. I never saw so many challenges like we are receiving this year. And we're talking about big numbers.
We are. I get a copy as well, and there's stacks of them. Thank you. Do you have the information?
Yes, Mayor, Council, Mr. Judge, prior year budgeted proceeds for ad valorem taxes for the general fund was 16.8. million. The current year is roughly 17.6 million.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the public? This is a public hearing. Any further comments or questions from council?
Just to piggyback on what you were saying, and I know it's tough to foresee where the values are going to end up on these houses, but where we're at today with the rate that we're going to give and all that, we feel like we're going to be okay for next year's budget too, without looking into the crystal ball too far and seeing where we're going. But we believe that this leaves the city financially strong and without much liability or open roof over the top of us for the years to come too.
Vice Mayor, Council, you are absolutely correct. This is like I said in my presentation. I'm bringing this recommendation because I want us to be in a position to be financially strong looking at the future. And when I talk about the economic conditions, it's extremely important to look at this. When I mentioned to you the number $142,000, the average taxable value in Homestead, I was talking to Jan earlier, and she got some numbers back in January 2007, and the number was higher, which is an indication that assessed values are going down on average. I can tell you we are positioning ourselves well for the future.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we've prepared well. Any further comments from the public? We'll now close the public hearing. Thank you very much. There will be further discussion as well at the council meeting, but again, I want to thank you for holding the line on this. And, as I got a couple of inquiries and a couple of phone calls, and when I explained, first there was the initial call on moving some of the items over to the tax bill. Once I explained it, they were really okay with it. And the comment, the feedback that I got was that people were appreciating the very small amount in comparison with what they've been experiencing, that when we explained it to them, they really did appreciate us holding the line, holding it down. Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lobos? Yes. Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Nelson?
Yes.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman? No. Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item.
An ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, adopting the budgets for several funds and departments of the city for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2008, ending September 30th, 2009, providing for repealer, severability, and an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move it.
A second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from council? This is a public hearing. Any comments or questions from members of the public?
Mayor Bell, I have a comment to make. As in the previous ordinance, we were talking about the amount of work that has been put into this, and I know that the city manager has met with all of council members, and I really do appreciate we looked at everything. Everything was on the table because we knew that we had to trim things down. We knew that we have to be fiscally responsible. We don't know what this coming year is going to have. And so I just want to communicate with the public that there were a lot of things that we looked at, and the theme here was a return on investment on the city. Things that we invested in, for example, and I'm going to highlight this one, the 4th of July fireworks in concert. We felt, and I felt, that it was important to maintain that service, to maintain that event to what it is, because that's like one of the few things that makes the city of Homestead. We look forward to that annual concert, that annual event, and so things like that were to be invested because the return on that investment is great as far as the quality of life here in the city of Homestead. Other items, and we even, and I know that I suggested, I don't know what other council members thought about this, but we suggested looking at the stuff that the council spends on, and I asked the city manager to take a look at that. I wanted to see where it was that this council was spending money on, and if there were items that we could cut back on, because, like I said, everything was on the table. If we're asking the city to trim down and we're asking staff to be conservative, then we certainly will lead by example for that. So I appreciate the work that you all put in, the information that you provided. I know my meeting went over an hour long, and I just really appreciate you sharing all that information with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Lobos. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Lobos? Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Nelson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
No.
Mayor Bell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Mr. Manager.
before we adjourn, again, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your guidance and, paying attention to me when I did presentations with you individually, and call me and ask the questions when you have ambiguity about anything, and that makes my job easier by providing you the information to make the right decision. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all my staff. They work so hard on this budget, and especially the finance department. I want to ask you to stand. Don't start posing them. Jan Smith, Christy Viscano, Joanna Fadis, Elizabeth Menguar. These ladies you see are the brains behind this budget. I can tell you they make my life easy. They do all the paperwork. And this is a product in the making since April, so it wasn't just something put in this presentation and looks pretty. It was really work since April. You could sit down, thank you. And I also want to thank every single department. And I want to thank department heads for taking this very seriously. The instructions when we sat down with them for the budget kickoff, I told them I want this to be extremely lean. I want to just ask for what you need. I can tell you in many departments this budget year came lower than last year. That's why we are able to do what we are proposing to do and cutting staffing. Of course, the police department is more than half of the general fund. Scott, please convey the message to the chief and to all of you in the police top brass. You guys doing a great job, and thank you very much for your participation in the budget. And this goes to every department head. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. This budget meeting is adjourned. Give us a few more minutes before we will reconvene with the city council meeting. Thank you.
Has this been changed?